Hi guys, it's great to be back with you again, and here we are with a very exciting interview. And I tell you what, this guy just unbelievable. The amount of stuff that he has done and has taken from a very promising start, and he's just grown it. Just goes through success after success after success. I have to say, from my point of view, he's one of the people that really inspire me, and it's with great delight that I want to introduce you to Tim Campbell, the first winner of The Apprentice.
Hey, how are you? You well?
All right, thank you very much. How on earth are you?
I can't complain. It's a good day. I'm alive. It's a great start.
Excellent, excellent. Right, for the audience members that maybe don't know you, aren't familiar with your work, do you want to just explain a bit about what you do?
Yeah. So now, nearly 12 years ago, I was the first series winner of The Apprentice. After that, I went out and set up a couple of companies. But the main thing I put a lot of energy and effort into is set up an initiative called the Bright Ideas Trust, which was all about leaving a positive legacy for the next generation of aspiring entrepreneurs who wanted to get involved with business, but may not want to sell their soul to the television devil like us and many others have gone on to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the work that you guys do over the Bright Ideas Trust, I appreciate that. Obviously, you're not involved with everything that happens over there, but it's absolutely phenomenal, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing what happens.
I'm really fortunate. 10 years ago, this summer actually, 10 years ago this summer, I set up the initiative, which was all about a charity to help pass on the wise knowledge of how to start up a business, how to raise funds, but not just do the hope bit. We wanted to match the hope of giving the investment of education with the opportunity of actually making it happen in the real world. And I'm really proud to say that today, we've helped over 750 different companies start up their businesses. So we're really proud to be able to provide mentors, money, and wise advice and guidance.
And that is absolutely amazing, because I know from personal experience what it takes to set up a business. So the fact that you have 750 is just huge in 10 years as well, to be honest. It's amazing.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. So tell us what mentoring means to you.
So for me, mentoring has a number of different meanings. So some it can be a coach, some it can be a wise and sensitive friend. But for me, I think it should be very specific about somebody who helps you to set and manage your goals. So we tend to look at Bright Ideas as what I call the unpaid driving instructor. So essentially, when you're learning to drive, you have the ambitions of the big car that you want to pursue. Then it might be a German car, it might be a car from any country, but you will have this image of when you complete a specific task, being able to have the freedom to drive. But in order to do that, you have to work backwards from that step and learn the simple process of signal, mirror, maneuver, what all the bits and bobs of the car do, and the rules of the road. And essentially, in order to be able to do that, you have to find an expert, somebody who has the knowledge to be able to drive, but not just the knowledge, the ability to pass their information on to somebody else. Because lots of people have the ability to drive, but not everybody can teach somebody else how to do it. So for us, when we're looking at business and mentors, we're trying to find people who have the experience and the knowledge, but also have the ability to pass it on to the next generation. So a mentor is that guide and coach, but it's somebody who can help you set the goals and then help you to meet them because they've got the knowledge and experience to do it.
It's so true. It's so true. It's something actually that's cropped up again and again throughout this conference. It's a theme of having someone to turn to that's walked the walk. And actually, part of our conversation has been about actually sometimes when you start a business, you're going to start off with one mentor, but actually as you grow, as you go into, maybe looking at international markets or something like that, you're going to end up with a different mentor who already walked that part of your journey.
Yeah, I'm greedy. I've got 4 mentors, 2 for business, 2 for family life. So when I was looking for mentors, I want to find people who have actually achieved the things that I want. So in terms of business, I get to work with a beautiful woman who has a phenomenal company, who has been able to grow a business significantly from the ground up, and also a very successful gentleman who has sold internationally around the world in terms of services. And on the family side, I look to people who have successful families where they've had a long-term relationship, they've got a happy life, and they've got that balance. And I'm able to seek the advice and guidance from all of those people to help me live the rounded life that I envisage for myself.
Absolutely, and it's so true. And actually, I was going to say to you, was there a particular mentor that stood out to you? But it sounds like you've got four on the go at the moment.
I'm greedy. I'm all about being selfish. There should be no limit to
Yes,
what you have in terms of people in your corner. And actually, the cliche term of your net worth being the people in your network is actually really, really true. And for me, with my mentors, there's a quid pro quo. It's not just about me getting something. And I don't pay them anything, but the quid pro quo, because there can be consideration involved in those relationships. The quid pro quo is that they are able to pass on their knowledge to me, and they know that I'm going to take that and actually utilize it in a positive way. So the exchange there is a fair one between two parties, but you have to realize that in some relationships, that mentoring might be, the consideration there might be financial. It might be the fact that they want a piece of your company. I think that sometimes muddies the water, but essentially you have to work on the right relationship to get the experience and knowledge that you need.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, in terms of, I just wonder if I could just ask you, in terms of going back all those years, when you applied for the Apprentice, what were you seeking at that point?
If I'm honest, I was seeking the six figures. Essentially, I wanted the money. The big transition on the show was that back in my day, it was about an employment contract and to work for a six-figure salary for a year. Fortunately, I was the winner, and I got not just a year, but I actually worked with Lord Sugar for 2 and a bit years. And for me, at the initial start of the conversation, I was very limited in what I thought I was going to get out of it. It wasn't about exposure. It wasn't about fame, or in some cases, infamy. It was more about what could I get in terms of financial increase in my salary, and also what was I going to get from knowledge about working with one of the UK's most successful entrepreneurs. So there was a clear split. Looking back retrospectively now, I've been really fortunate that I've actually gained more than the money would have ever served me in any way, shape or form, because the information that I gleaned from working alongside Lord Sugar, the intervention that he had around the things that I was performing, the way that he opened up his business for me to be able to see exactly how to run my own company is invaluable, and actually has generated much more than the initial salaries that he paid me for those 2 years.
Absolutely, and that mentorship from Lord Sugar is the thing that's really kind of just put you on I would say on the trajectory to your current success.
Without his intervention, my life would have been very different. Don't get me wrong, I don't think I would have been down the local job centre, but essentially I think it would have taken me longer to do the things I wanted to do, and also I probably wouldn't have been afforded the opportunities that I had if I hadn't been a participant in the show. I think there is a fair amount of luck involved in business, but you can actually become luckier the more beneficial mentors that you have in your corner.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then so obviously you went from there. You launched Bright Ideas, and then you got awarded an MBE for all this fantastic work you've been doing.
I know my mum calls it my big ears, but yeah, she was very happy that I got the nod from Her Royal Highness. It was amazing achievement. I tried to blow it off at first when I saw it, because I was obviously very shocked and proud to be nominated. I tried to blow it off; it would be just another occasion. But actually going to the ceremony and seeing my first mentor, my mum, being so overwhelmed by the occasion and the amount of pride that she had in it really hit home how important it actually was to be recognised. But I always say around the recognition, it wasn't me that was being recognised, it was the effort of the team and people I'd worked with. So all the people had had a positive impact in my life, including all of my mentors, all of my teachers, all of my friends that have been wise guidance along the way. That was a true recognition of all of the manifestations of their work in terms of what I was doing today. So it wasn't just one effort or one activity, it was a culmination of all of it. But I was really, really happy to receive.
Absolutely. And from what you're saying, it sounds like your mum is a huge inspirational mentor to you as well.
They're huge. Well, I think our parents are our first mentors. And this raises another point. Sometimes mentors can be quite bad. It's not a guarantee just because somebody is an influence in your life that it's going to be a positive one. And that's why I think the endeavour of teaching people how to mentor, or to have some form of record around how good or bad a mentor will be, is a positive thing, because when lots of people who are aspiring to succeed will have rightly in their head, well, I need a mentor. When you ask them what they actually need, sometimes they need a coach, or they need an advisor, or they need a specific person to help on a specific intervention. But when they do realize they actually do need a mentor, they understand what the actual potential of that is, a good mentor can be transformational in your development and your success. But by the very same token, a bad mentor can take you off course and be a waste of time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And at this point, you're almost becoming an ambassador for our brand about setting standards and rigor in mentor training. You know, we're absolutely on the same wavelength.
No, for a long time. So from the very first business we supported, we realised that the money actually wasn't the most important thing that we were going to provide. Actually, providing mentors to our businesses, which we have done for the last 10 years, has been the most important aspect that both our beneficiaries have said and also what we've found in terms of the success of our companies. Now, that sometimes means that the mentors have to say, no, this isn't working. They sometimes have to be the eyes and ears which actually say, do you know what, the future progression of this is not looking positive, let's do something else. But for somebody to be able to stand in a sensible position and save somebody or avert them away from potential disaster is as much a success as, for example, some of the businesses that we've sold that have sold for in excess of £1 million. So we're really fortunate that we're surrounded by mentors who are willing to give their time for free and have helped our businesses be more successful than they would have been by themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, obviously, as you've become more successful, as you've become more busy in lots of respects as well, how have you found that your need for mentoring has changed?
As I've aged, I've realised that the people I need to have advising me is different, because I think as you realise what you actually want, you start to, and I suppose this just taking a step back, this is the really important bit. A mentor can't tell you what you need to go after. You have to be the one driving that conversation. The mentor's not going to be there as almost like a non-executive director or a COO in your idea or your business. That's your job. What you're seeking a mentor for is somebody that you can create a safe place where you can be vulnerable. Because when you're running a business or running an entity, you as the leader of that entity are seen as the omnipotent one, the one with all the answers and all powerful, can move things in lots of direction. And actually some people need that in terms of the leadership in order to take them in a different direction. And to turn around to people and say, I'm a bit stuck, I don't know, can be off-putting to some people, and particularly to keep the morale up. So for me, having a mentor allows you to create a safe place where you can put your hand up and say, do you know what, I don't know the answer to this question, can you help? And their job is not to go off and run off and get the answers for you. It's actually to help you develop the knowledge and experience to answer the question for yourself. So it's within the individual, but you need a guide to help you to be able to get to that point. And they can use their knowledge and experience that they've gleaned in order to help you to get there.
Absolutely, absolutely, and certainly something we talk about on our training is the mentor's mantra, which is the structure for that conversation. You're absolutely singing my songs at the moment. So how do you personally use mentoring? How do you work as a mentor for others?
So for me, I'm very much around setting goals. I'm a real advocate of the power of a list. But the power of goal setting. And that's really trying to help the individual with targeted questions and attentive listening to be able to find out exactly what the person is trying to actually achieve. Because when I speak to lots of the people I get to, that I'm humble enough to be able to work alongside, they don't know what they don't know. So therefore, they can't come with this clearly articulated business plan or a trajectory they want to go on, because they just don't know what they don't know. So my role is to help them through those facilitated questions to understand exactly what they're trying to achieve, because that clarity, getting them to that point of clarity, is one of the most important points of a mentor, because there's a huge amount of noise that surrounds an individual when they're doing anything, whether that's studying for a PhD or trying to launch a company or even getting married. There's a huge amount of noise, and what a mentor can help the individual do is cut through that and then be really focused about what they're trying to achieve. Then it's about once you understand what they are trying to achieve, working backwards with structured goal setting facilities to help them in small measurable steps reach and progress towards that ambitious goal that they've set for themselves. And that's what the mentor's guide is to help them plan and put in place the processes to get to where they actually want to do. It's the individual's responsibility to get there, because if it doesn't work, it's not because the mentor did something wrong. It may be because there's something happened in the big universe, but the mentor's there to help and advise on how to deal with those things that might not go in the right direction, but initially just to put the plan in place in order to get to that point in the first place.
Thank you. I mean, that's amazing. That's a wonderful insight. Now, for you as a mentee, what sort of person do you find that you get on best with as a mentor?
Really interesting. I think there are lots of different learning styles that we're much more aware of now than we were beforehand. And I'm one who I find it particularly useful to work with somebody who's very, very clear and unambiguous around what they do. So I'm not really one who takes an awful lot of time to have to sit down and do all the small talk. I want to be able to come, say, these are my 5 issues. This is what I'm struggling with. This is the things I'm doing. Help me to understand what I need to do into that particular point. So I'm very used to the style, an authoritative style, which says, listen, these are the things you should be thinking about. Go away. You've got a couple of weeks. Come back and tell me what you've done up to the point of that. So I like structure. I like things to be quite clearly laid out. So as a mentee, I'm very open around what I need and what I expect and what I want. But I'm also very challenging in that the mentor, I will expect them, in order to get my respect, to be able to have more knowledge than I do to help me to get towards that particular point in time, or to help me understand how I get to that particular point in time. So therefore, I would expect them to have the analogies, the experience, the insight to be able to impart, say, listen, I've seen this happen. This is what I did in that situation. How do you think you might be able to learn from that? And for me, I'm like, aha, the light bulb's got on. I'm off and running. So that's the kind of mentee I am.
Excellent, excellent. And what do you feel that the benefits of mentoring are?
I think the benefits of mentoring are exponential, because it's like a teacher. When you think about teachers, it's one of my big bugbears in the world about how poorly teachers are rated or paid. Because essentially, every teacher in this world has inspired a doctor, a lawyer, a footballer, a mathematician, an astronaut, but they never get sometimes to see the output of their work and intervention alongside that individual. So for me, the benefits of mentoring are huge in terms of productivity, in terms of success, in terms of confidence and aspiration. Mentors have the potential to positively influence all of these different elements. But I don't sometimes think that the power of mentoring, just like teachers, is always respected or fully understood. I think that the connotations around the word mentor are much more positively received than sometimes teacher, but essentially it's still seen as for the few as opposed to the many. And I personally think everybody, regardless of your position or what your aspirations are, should have a mentor in their life, somebody to guide them. Thankfully, some people are fortunate enough to have parents who act as that in the first instance. Or even they have good friends who they can actually rely on. But then when you're coming to the point of wanting to launch a business or become chief executive of a company or a senior position within a business, I personally think it's incredibly valuable in order to be able to accelerate and keep that position of power. Then it's really important to find somebody who can give you advice and guidance to help you be more than you could be by yourself. Synergy is the biggest output of mentoring.
Absolutely. So to have interest, what do you think the future of mentoring is?
Interesting, because when you think about how the world is changing, digitalization is impacting every aspect of the world. And I can quite easily see how some form of artificial intelligence can be incorporated into the mentoring conversation. Where mentoring isn't 100% logic-based, then I don't think there's a place for computers or artificial intelligence take over completely from the personal one-to-one mentoring conversation, but I do see technology positively impacting the reach of mentors. So there was a platform called Horse's Mouth, you might remember, a few years ago. I think having online forums where mentoring is done en masse is a big play. So we at Bright Ideas Trust are currently in plan to produce a similar type platform where we have mentors who can mentor to many, but using technology in order to be able to answer questions or give advice and guidance based on what individuals need. So it's that bridge between what an advisor is, who is an expert in one particular field, to what a mentor is, who will give you the space to create the plans or the future trajectory of your business over here. And using technology in order to be able to open that up to many, I think that's where mentoring is heading.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we're running out of time now, so I'm going to have to move on, I'm afraid. But I feel that you and I can just keep on talking forever on this.
Indeed, we talk each other's ears off.
Oh, no, absolutely. So, how can we encourage more people to get involved with mentoring?
I think there's some really easy things that we could do. Firstly, we should be doing more chats like this, so getting people who have been positively influenced by mentoring, because essentially, if anyone who's famous stands up and says, "Listen, the reason for my success was this," then, and mentoring was part of that conversation, all of a sudden it starts to become really, really important for people, because let's be clear, the power of influencers is unquestionable at the moment. You just have to look on YouTube or Instagram and see the influence that they actually have. I think what we need to do is have a standard which is recognized. So almost like when we had a kite mark around safety items, everybody automatically knows at a drop of a hat, this means this is good. If we have accredited mentors who have the same process, then brilliant. I think the only thing to be careful and cautious of with regards to accreditation is that lots of mentors who are really, really knowledgeable and have tons to give back have very limited time in order to be able to do that. Because you want to get something done, ask a busy person, because they're usually ones who've got experience and everything else. So I think we have to have a sensible balance, and this is once again where technology might come into play, where we want to make sure that everybody is a regular standard, but we don't want to put off individuals who might have huge amounts to give by thinking there's huge amount of loopholes to jump through in order to be able to become accredited or recognized as a good mentor. Because there's lots of mentoring that happens informally anyway. And to formalize it is a sensible thing, because then we can bring it to the masses, but we don't want something that's as onerous, which eliminates lots of people to do it. So I use the example of the DBS check, for example. We know that DBS checking is incredibly important when working with young people. And it's a relatively simple process in order for somebody to be able to send off an application to make sure that they haven't been in trouble for anything that may put young people at risk. It's very similar that we could do something around the mentoring process, around making sure there's some basic things in place. How long have you been in business? What business have you done? Where's that come from? Give us an example of when you've helped someone, or a testimonial from somebody who you have mentored. So these things can come. I think if we look at how we could use technology going forward, simple rating systems could actually then start to let the market dictate what's happening. And we're going to do that by Ideas Trust, use the market to dictate which mentors are really good.
Absolutely. It's interesting you say all of that, because all I'm going to say is watch this space from mentors.
Love it. Listen, there's enough of a cake out there where everybody helps everybody. So the fact is, if you do it, I do it, 10 other people do it, who benefits? The people involved in the mentoring conversation. So I don't mind about who's first or second or whoever gets it done. The more people we have doing it, the more momentum we'll get around the power of mentoring. Hey ho, we're all happy.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, I'm afraid we have run out of time, but it has been an absolute pleasure. And I know that I'm certainly going away, and I've digested lots from this conversation. I'm sure our audience have as well. So with deepest thanks, thank you very much.
Thank you to you for putting us side by side, and hopefully everything with the mentoring school goes according to plan, because it's so important that we get more people to understand the power of mentoring.